Hello, 8th graders. For this lesson, we're going to do 3 different review activities for your final word study test, which will be one of the lessons that are posted this week. So I'm going to be posting the worksheets that I want you to do on this video. I'll go through a few of the examples that I want you to complete, and then after watching this video, then your goal is to go through the 3 word study review activities, practice them, send them to me in Google Classroom. I'll get them back to you before the test, and then these will be things that you'll be allowed to use when you take your final test on word study. So stick with me, follow along closely, and then make sure that you do these 3 review activities before you take the test. So this first review activity, we have 2 different things to look at. You'll notice in the top of the page we have 3 analogies, and then at the bottom of the page we have a chart that has a group of suffixes, and what you're asked to do there is to figure out the part of speech. So let's start with the analogies, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the first one on this video, and then the other 2 I'd like you to do on your worksheet. So the first one says bad star is to disaster as one shape is to blank. So in the first analogy, bad star is to disaster as one shape is to blank. So the root that we know of, aster, A-S-T-E-R, means star. So you'll notice that I've highlighted in yellow aster. It means star. The other part that I highlighted, you'll notice that the prefix dis means bad. So the word disaster actually has the origin of meaning bad things happen because of bad stars. So bad star is to disaster. And then we're going to look at the next one, one shape. So again, we want to find a Latin or Greek root that means the same thing as shape. And I know from our past studies that the Latin root that means shape is form. So what I need to think about now is, okay, the root is form, but what word means one shape? So when I think of the prefix one, I think of a one-wheeled bicycle, like a unicycle. Somebody who has one big old eyebrow across their forehead, a unibrow. So I'm thinking that one in this context must be Latin, the Latin prefix uni for uniform. So bad star is to disaster as one shape is to uniform. So you're going to be looking at, okay, what is the root that I'm looking for, and then what's the other piece? So the second one, I'm not going to do them, but I'll just go through them and I'll highlight a couple of things that I want you to pay attention to. Something that pulls is to tractor, as able to be carried is to blank. So pull and tract are the 2 that go together. So something that pulls is a tractor. What I want next is, what is the root that means to carry? And what word means able to be carried? The third analogy, star sailor, is to astronaut, as to look in is to blank. So again, I know that the root astra means star. So aster means star. So what we want to figure out is, in the second part of the analogy, what Latin root means look. And then once you figure out that root, I want you to think about a word that means to look in. The final part of this first review activity is analyzing suffixes, trying to determine what part of speech they are commonly found in. And your choices are noun, verb, adjective, adverb, preposition, and conjunction. In our past lessons, we found that not all parts of speech have a common suffix, so some of these will not be used. So let's look at our first list. OUS. So when I think of a suffix OUS, I think of a word like spacious or gracious. Then we have FUL, wonderful, beautiful. IC, heroic, poetic, magnetic. Then we have the suffix Y, like in funny, sunny, foggy, hairy. And then ish, ISH, childish, foolish. Then we have able or able, like in capable, portable, relatable. Then we have IVE, like attractive or reflexive. And then AL, like in national or natural. So thinking about the word examples that I gave you, what part of speech shares this whole group of suffixes right here? The next list we have IZE, like in magnetize, pulverize. Then we have ATE, like in levitate, formulate. Then we have IFY, like in simplify or verify. And then we have ING, like in running, hopping, driving. And then we have ED, like in jumped, hopped, slept. That's not a good one. That ends in T. Anyway, look at this group of suffixes. Try to figure out words that have that suffix at the end, and then try to determine what your part of speech is. The third list, we have shun, TION. It's also often spelled SION. Words like occasion, education, recreation, relaxation. And then we have EROR, like teacher, doctor, dancer, performer. MENT, apartment, department, compartment. And then we have ism, ISM, like in terrorism, ostracism, stoicism, communism. And lastly, NESS, like in kindness. So when you look at this group of words, try to come up with your own words that end with each of those suffixes to determine its part of speech. And our fourth and final column, this part of speech typically only has this one suffix, the LY, like in quickly, rapidly, slowly, unhappily. So what I want you to think about is words that end in those suffixes, and then determine what is your part of speech. For this second word study review assignment, you're going to be given lists of words that contain the same Latin or Greek root. At the top of this assignment, there is a word bank that has all of the English meanings, that has the common meanings of these Latin and Greek roots. So your job in this activity is to read the lists and try to figure out what does each list have in common. So each list has 4 or 5 examples of words that share the same root. Then using the word bank, I want you to figure out, okay, so what do all of those words have in common? And then what is the meaning of the root? And you'll find that each root is bold-faced so that it will stand out for you. And then on this activity, we'll do 1 or 2 together, and then you will be expected to do the rest of the activity by yourself, and then please submit it into Google Classroom. So this is word study review number 2, and I'm going to do 1 or 2. There are 2 pages on this activity, so please don't just do the first page, do them both. So what you're going to see is in the word bank, these are the actual meanings for the Latin and Greek roots that are in bold print. We have sound, skin, life, self, star, carry, speaker say, hand, right, shape, pull, death, fight, good, bad, or evil. So let's look at the first box and the third column, and we're looking at the words phonics, telephone, symphony, and homophone. So when I think about those words and what they all have in common, I know phonics is how you learn to read when you're little, and you learn the sounds that the letters make, And then when you put the sounds together, you make words. I know a telephone. Tele is another root that means distant. I know that a telephone is how you hear sounds from far away. A symphony is an orchestra or a group of musicians that play together, and musicians that play together make a sound that blends together. And lastly, a homophone would be two words that have the same sound, homo meaning same. So, for example, SEE and SEA both sound like C, but they have two different meanings. So, phonics, telephone, symphony, and homophone all have the same root, and that root means sound. On the second page, let's look at the very last row, and I'm going to look at the second column, words that contain the root bene, like in benefit, benevolent, beneficial, and benefactor. So a benefit is something that is good for you. Someone who is benevolent, like a king, is a good and just ruler. Something that is beneficial is something that is good for you as well. And a benefactor is someone who does good things for others. So knowing that all of those have something to do with good, I can guess that bene means good. So what I'm going to ask you to do is go back and complete the rest of these word lists and figure out what is the actual meaning of each of the roots that are found in each list. So have fun. This is word study review number 3. In this activity, what you're going to be seeing is you're going to be given a list of words that all are the same part of speech. They have different suffixes. Some don't have any suffixes at all. But what you want to think about is what is the function or the job of the words in each of the lists. This is multiple choice, and you will be using just each one of the parts of speech one time only. So again, I'll do one of them with you in the activity, and then in Google Classroom, I'd like you to do the rest of them, and then make sure that you return it to me before we take your test. So the directions for word study review number 3 is analyze each group of words to determine the part of speech. So the part of speech is the job that the word does in the sentence. Be sure to look closely at suffixes to help determine the part of speech, and then all you have to do is circle the part of speech. So I'm going to read through all 5 of them, and then we'll just do one together. Number 1, beautiful, glorious, heroic, funny, childish, comfortable, natural. Think about that. What is the function of those words? What do those words do? Are they nouns, verbs, adjectives, adverbs, or prepositions? So think about why would you use those words? What is their job? Number 2, we have pulverize, capitalize, liquidate, formulate, simplify, running, and hopped. So what do those words have in common? What do they do? Are they nouns, verbs, adjectives, adverbs, or prepositions? Number 3, we have quickly, really, very, to, softly, rapidly, unusually, here, there, today, and now. So some of these words have the same suffix, but some have no suffix. So now in this particular case, in number 3, you need to think about what are these words doing? What is their job? Number 4, we have up and down, in, out, above, beneath, between, among, through, with, and to. And again, this list in number 4 does not have suffixes. So what is the function of these words? What is their job? What are they supposed to do when we use them in a sentence? Are they a noun, a verb, an adjective, an adverb, or a preposition? And lastly, number 5, we have education, recreation, teacher, dancer, doctor, apartment, terrorism, and kindness. So look at, these do have suffixes. So when you think about the suffixes of these particular words in this list, what is their job? Are they nouns, verbs, adjectives, adverbs, or prepositions? And for this activity, let's do number 4. We have up, down, in and out, above, beneath, between, among, through, with, and to. So I want to talk through my thinking. So up and down, in and out, those are not people, they're not places, they're not things, they're not ideas. You can't up, you can't down, you can't beneath, you can't among, so it's not a verb. I know an adjective describes nouns, so I wouldn't say I have an up pair of shoes or an above puppy, so they're not adjectives. I know that adverbs tell me how things were done, to what extent, where, and when. So up and down might tell you where, but there's nothing in there that shows how something was done or to what extent. So that leaves me to believe that up, down, in, out, above, beneath, between, among, through, with, and to are prepositions. Because if you remember, a preposition is a word that shows your location or position in relationship to another noun. So on your actual word study review number 3 activity in Google Classroom, I want you to make sure you do 1, 2, 3, and 5, and then return it to me, and then you'll be ready for your test. So if you have successfully completed word study review activities 1, 2, and 3, then you're ready for your test. I have allowed my in-person students to use their notes. So when you are ready to take your test, then what you're going to want to do is you can use these word study review activities. These are activities, these are your notes. These are things that you've practiced. If you have any notes in Google Classroom, or if you've put any notes into Notability, then you are welcome to take the test using your notes. The only thing that I ask when you take a test, please do the very best that you can to do it by yourself. If something is unsure, you're unsure, or you're not exactly clear on what to do, you can ask me for direction through email. But please don't have anyone at home help you with a test, because I really need to know what you know and where you're stuck and how I can help you. So these 3 review activities should be a big help, and your test will be part of this week's Google Classroom assignments. Good luck, and I'll see you soon.